Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. We're going to get underway here. If you want to get some coffee, get some water, grab a little bite to eat, please feel free to continue doing so. My name is Eric Cohn. I'm the West Coast sales manager for SnapStream, and I'm so excited today that I get to lead this session called "We Have the Biggest Buttons: Using SnapStream to Influence Culture." If you'll allow me to steal a Trump quote, this is the. I didn't put. Anyways. So more than anything, this is our user panel. These are people that are in SnapStream most every day. They've figured out some really amazing and interesting ways to use the software. And I'm really excited to introduce everybody and show you what they do. We have some interesting questions. I'm sure we'll have some fun conversation. Then we'll have some opportunities for you to ask questions. I want to introduce our panelists here really quickly. We have Nicole Dellert from Condé Nast, Suchit Dash from Dubsmash, Brandon Launertz from CBS News, and Joe Atkinson from Major League Soccer. I'm going to go through really quickly. We have a slide made up for each one. We're going to talk a little bit, if you don't mind introducing yourself, talk a little bit about how you use SnapStream, if you wouldn't mind, and then we'll go from there. So without further ado, I'll introduce Joe Atkinson.
Good afternoon. So I guess I'm going to be the oddball, as you can see by my slide, how we use SnapStream. So we don't use it in a typical media platform. We use it from a medical platform. We had a problem. The commissioner came to me and said, hey, we've got a problem. We're seeing things on TV that the guys on the sidelines aren't seeing from the physician standpoint, because obviously the physicians are on the field level and you can't see all the way across the field with the opposite side. So we said we need to be able to get them to be able to see what they're looking at and see what we see on TV, so that we don't get ripped apart by Twitter or by Instagram or something like that, because they saw something on TV that our docs weren't able to because they just weren't there. So we kicked around a few ideas and it didn't go real far real fast. And then I hit up our IT guys and presented them, because obviously IT guys are much smarter than the rest of us. Said, hey, here's my problem, fix it. And we started talking with SnapStream about it. So what we basically do is we have a soccer operations center here based in New York, and we get all the broadcast feeds from all the sports to try and just kind of observe, make sure it started off to make sure that the fans were doing the right thing, that the signage was in the right place, that the field boards were right, and that they were meeting their start times for broadcast media and things like that. But we had that all fed in there, so we loaded SnapStream up, and we sit in our operations center during game day and watch. And if we have certified athletic trainers who come in and actually watch these games to make sure that if anything medical happens specifically due to head injuries or possible concussions, they see that video, then they take SnapStream, they cut that video, and then we email it to an iPad that the physician on the sidelines has, and he can pick that up, review that video before he goes out and interacts with the player, so that he has not only what the player's telling him, but what the actual visual representation of the injury was, to include, if broadcast pushes it, the slow motion replay. And it's been very beneficial to him.
So how do you push it? How long does it take?
So we're averaging 3.5 minutes. From the time I hit send to the time they have it on the sidelines is 3.5 minutes. And it's just sent via email through because once we cut it, it technically becomes medical information, so it's got to be encrypted because it's being used for medical diagnostics. And so it has to go through an encrypted side. So we have a special setup within MLS that we push it out through to a dedicated email that's on each iPad.
Suchit?
Hi, my name is Suchit Dash. I'm president at a company called Dubsmash. We're actually probably the youngest company here on this panel. We've been around for about 2.5 years. It's an iPhone app on your phones or Android devices. And what you can do is you can actually take any sort of audio clip and you can record yourself over the sound. So think Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back, your face, Arnold's voice, and you're mouthing it and do a lip sync video.
I'll play this real quick if you don't mind. Yeah.
So you can see just on this video, this will give you an example of
What's your favorite app?
what it looks like.
Dubsmash, obviously.
Well, I just happen to have Dubsmash on my phone.
You do?
Amazing grace. Tonight show does smash.
Penelope, I know that you're a huge fan of this app.
Yes, I am.
But for those who don't know about Dubsmash, they have thousands of different sound bites from movies, TV shows.
I'd like to buy a hamburger.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
Perhaps you saw me in Westworld. I acted like a robotic cowboy.
Do you want to build a snap?
No, God!
Red, you go. Where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Wake your ass up, because it's time to go beast mode.
If you're not real, then how come I feel this way?
I'm a trained actor reduced to the stakes of a bum.
I like this ship.
You know, it's exciting.
So it's probably a little different than the way you guys use it. But it's a fun app. We have about 200 million users around the world who use this app to create these fun videos. They share it on social. And we've created about 7 billion videos, all less than 10 seconds, around kind of all these different types of content. And one of the things, you know, is one of those classic startup stories where we turned it live. We had 5 people in a basement actually in Berlin who kind of turned this thing live, and the thing took sort of a life of its own. And we started seeing that users were uploading their own audio snippets and audio content coming from content that was just airing the day before. So like State of the Union, people would start uploading quotes, or people would upload quotes from the most recent episode of, you know, Real Housewives or Game of Thrones as an example. And then when we started to talk to many of our users, they not only wanted the audio bit, but they also wanted the video associated with it as well. And they wanted to interact with that video. And so we worked, actually we're probably one of the more recent customers. In Q4, we launched sort of a product where for the first time, instead of just giving the audio to the users, we would start giving the video to the users as well. It would be a much better cut, mastered version. And then you would see users kind of playing around with, you know, they played one character, and then you would see the other character as the mastered video itself coming back and forth. So it's been really exciting, and we're actually working pretty heavily now. I have a whole team now that's focused on kind of the SnapStream ingestion with all this different content coming on a daily basis, and then kind of cut into 10-second bits and then put into the application.
Thank you. Cool.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I work at Condé Nast. I oversee the editorial operations and performance of Snapchat Discover channels. So that's Wired, Self, Vogue, GQ, and Teen Vogue. And I'm also in charge of the social news desk. The social news desk is soft news. It's entertainment. It's haircuts, celebrities, those sort of things, and anything you're talking about on the internet. It's composed of an article writing team and a media team, creating MP4s, those sort of things for specifically social platforms. We use SnapStream primarily during live events. We have a big war room, and we're basically pitching from red carpet to the close of the event to all of our brands, trending article topics that we think will work, or snippets of quotes, speech captions, those sort of things. SnapStream's been really helpful on the article side from transcripts and Twitter embeds. So we do pre-writes, for example, of a performance or of a speech. The second it comes out, that transcript is ready, and we can cut that video and cross-reference it with the transcript and get as live as quickly as possible, and then we can go on social as quickly as possible. Because in these sort of situations, it's whoever's first is really the winner in this, with SEO or with social performance. And then on the media side, during these live events, we're cutting moments that we think make sense for the brands, whether that's an inspirational quote or Blue Ivy telling her mom to calm down, things like that.
Great. Thank you. Brandon?
Hi guys, my name is Brandon. I work at CBS This Morning, the national broadcast on CBS. And I've been there for about a year and a half, and I'm a social media associate producer, and I'm responsible for live tweeting the newscast every morning. And SnapStream has been a huge help in our growth online and getting our content out there, because we're, I would say, fairly new morning broadcasts compared to our competitors. We've been on the air for 6 years now. You know, we're trying to get our content out into front of as many people as possible. So this is a photo of James Corden, who was on our show last week before the Grammys. So we use SnapStream to, you know, basically I would say 90% of what's on our show is on Twitter while it's airing. So, you know, the A block, which is the first 20 minutes of the show, it's usually the most important news of the morning, what you need to know. So I'm clipping, you know, reporters' intros. You know, if we have a live interview, getting quotes out. if it's just a reader about something that happened, around the world, we'll get that out there. And sometimes the smallest stories will be our most successful tweet when, they're video clips most of the time. Sometimes we do GIFs. Sometimes if it's breaking news, we'll just do an image to get it out quicker. But yeah, I use SnapStream for basically everything. It's one of the most important tools that I use for my job. So
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. When we were putting this panel together, more than anything, we kind of were looking through it for a thread through all of our panelists here today. And the two really big things that we saw were, you were all influencing culture in your own different way. Some in influencing the way you handle medical issues, and some literally influencing culture like you may do at Condé Nast. Can you talk a little bit about what that means to you at your organization, like how you see influencing culture or your influence specifically onto the zeitgeist?
Sure.
Nicole?
Okay,
Sure, yeah.
Well, the first thing we do is we always try to make sure that we're in line with editorial voice. Editorial excellence is the most important thing to us. So what we're creating and producing, especially in this time of age, we are starting to slow down a little bit and asking ourselves the why of video. Like, are we inspiring people? Are we motivating them? Or are we just in this rat race of content? And you're starting to see that in these Facebook feeds, that it's just a lot of crap. It's starting to turn into a lot of crap, right? And you can blame my mother because she's liking all of it and she's sharing all of it. And so I totally get it. But we have to kind of stop down and ask the why, and is this in line with our brands? So that's something that is always a challenge every day. But it's also been an interesting shift with the political landscape. Last year, when President Obama did a speech, we were like killing it on social performance. You cut like 15 seconds of that and everyone is just sharing it and they're feeling inspired. The speeches now are a little bit different and they're a little polarizing, and the brands are having to kind of take a step back because they're not political brands. We have to go back to like our core and what is our mission? What is the mission of Teen Vogue? What is Allure trying to do? And that's something that we still are challenged with, especially as we're working with social media managers and people who are just trying to adhere to a KPI. We need them to stop and take a step back and look at, is this good for like the company?
We define KPI for those who don't know.
I'm sorry, a key performance index, right? So, okay, guys, you need to have X amount of engagement this month. And at the end of the month, all of a sudden, crap is filling the feeds. And you will see it because they don't want to get in trouble. And then these social media managers are in my opinion, like, they're the backbone of these organizations because they're essentially marketing and they're getting all the content out. But they're also the first people that are going to get in trouble when there's a mess up. How could you do that? And usually those people that are saying, how could you do that, have no idea how to tweet, right? So it's a lot of, for our team, we come in as a partner to the brands, as collaborators, and we want to make sure that it's a safe place of creation and that we're going to protect our social media managers too and still adhere to speed.
Anybody else want to comment on?
Yeah, so it's interesting for us is that we're very much, our user base takes culture and then kind of turns it on top of its head, right? And we very much are like almost like a remix platform. And what's interesting is what we notice is that our demographic is largely under 24. It's about 60% of our users are under 24. And what we've noticed is that as much as you want to give them kind of these seeds to be able to kind of build off of, they will sort of take it and they want to do their own creations and they want to create. They don't want to just simply passively consume what is given to them. They want to take it and they want to make it into their own, personalize it, and then they want to send it to their friends. And that's a very different, we even look at our own internal data where like last year we had about 2 billion video views inside our app. If you look at where the concentration of that was, 25 plus consumed a lot more and 24 and under created a lot more. So they created a lot more of these videos. And so I think what we always challenge ourselves with is we work obviously very closely with a lot of content owners and content providers. How do you provide or facilitate this type of exchange where people want to create, but obviously there's sensitivities with the brands themselves about taking that content and doing something potentially objectionable with it. And so, we have things that we've put in place, like keeping a team that curates a lot of this content, making sure that it's, brand safe, that we're not letting a lot of this objectionable content get out there. And I think that is going to become an increasing challenge because the demand from users that are under 24 is to really shape the culture, not necessarily be fed sort of the culture that's out there.
Sure. Great. Thank you so much. Brandon, I want to ask you and Joe, you guys really have a need for incredibly quick video turnaround. Could you talk a little bit about what that means at CBS and what that means at MLS? How, why is, and what potentially can go wrong and can go right when you're turning things around that quickly?
So speed for us is kind of a dual-edged sword. One, we're kind of at the mercy of broadcast. So when we first introduced SnapStream and the ability to send clips to the sideline, the doctors were like, "Heck no, I'm not going to let a video tell me what I want to do." And through the course of the season, it transitioned from I don't even want the video to, oh, can I get the video faster? Can I get 3 or 4 different views? I mean, how much content can you send me? And then even to the point now, at the end of last season, we had them. We have an internal dialogue between the Soccer Operations Center (SOC) and the teams, and they would text back or they would send us a message saying, "Hey, this play happened, or this player got hurt in this minute at this time," and we're able to go back and use the search for that guy's keyword through the subtitle text, grab that clip, and then send it down to the doc. So he's actually at halftime asking for 3 or 4 different videos, so that when a player comes in and says, "Hey, I got dinged, I want to get checked out," to, "Okay, I want to see what happened to make sure that things are matching up." And it went from I don't even want to use it, it's the dumbest thing ever, I hate it, to why is it not here faster? Why can I not have this instantaneously? Why you should be able to read my thoughts and get it out to me. So it was a real transition, and especially working with doctors who don't like to transition at all. It was kind of fun to see them buy into the system and get some feedback on it.
Hey, Joe, why do you bother to transcode it if you want it to get there fast? It's already been on TV.
So we use that when we're going back to research when they've asked for different videos. So the live stream that we send, the cut and clip that goes fast, is stuff that we internally see and want the doctor to have eyes on. The stuff that we use the encode for is when they come back and say, Almiron got hit in the 23rd minute. At this point, can you send me a copy of that video? Which was something we didn't have or didn't feel needed to be sent down. It's just something they're asking for.
But still, it's been on TV. Why encode it? It takes time.
It's
medical records.
Yeah, it's a medical record.
It's been on broadcast TV.
But it gets uploaded to the medical file. It's one thing that I just came from a different conference where we were talking about that. What does it become? Becomes what's protected and what isn't protected, and it's that whole space that they don't, with the ability of guys sending out Twitter feeds and video like that. Who does that contact belong to? Does it belong to the athlete, or who does it belong to? So we encode it right now just because we don't know yet who it belongs to and who has the rights to it.
You were telling me a little bit about about when they pull people out of games. You really have essentially 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, so there's an unwritten, or there's a suggested rule in the world of soccer that if a potential headery comes in, you've got the refs will stop the game for 3 minutes, and the doc's got to make a decision in 3 minutes. Does this player stay or does this player go? And so we are trying to push that forward because we had 2 issues happen this season where a home club doc got the video feed after he'd gone out and cleared the player and said, "Oh wait, something was funky in here," and pulled the player off the side, gave him a secondary screening, which wasn't that big of a deal. But we had a big deal when the opposing team had a guy who went down. They screened him, said he was good. He came off, and the doc got the video and said, "Hey, wait a second." And it blew up in the world because the coach called the doctor out saying he was being gamesmanship, that he was pulling his best player out and they were going to lose the game. And we're talking, it was in the playoffs, so we're talking millions of dollars that we're pushing around based on the simple feed. And so the speed for us is a huge deal because I need to get that to him so the doc can have it before he goes out and screens.
Why wouldn't you just have a doctor up in the SOC center looking at the video, communicating with another doctor on the field?
So with head injuries,
then you wouldn't have to encode it and send it and feed it. You'd save your 3 minutes.
because with soccer, with head injuries and concussions in particular, it's a very unique injury, and the fact that somebody who doesn't know a player, doesn't know his history, doesn't know what happened during practice, didn't know what happened during the course of the week, sees something, he may make a call that the person who's been dealing with that player or that athlete throughout the course of the week or the season may know something different. And so it's very hard with concussions to base it solely on a visible sign. There's a SCAT test that we do. There's a pen and pencil battery that goes into it. So there's a myriad of different tests that go into that process. And unlike other sports, soccer is unique in the fact that if a guy gets hurt playing basketball or football, and the doc on the sideline says, "Hey, bring this guy out so I can look at him," guy comes out, they screen him, and they put him back in. In soccer, when they come out, they stay out. They don't get to go back in. And so it's got to be done. It's got to be quick. It's got to be done. And the evaluation has to be done and complete, because if they pull that player off, he doesn't get to go back on. And so you take out your best player, and now in the first 30 minutes or the first 10 minutes of the game, now you got to play an additional 80 minutes of the game without your best player. And so it's unique in the fact that we have to get it to them so that they can, and a physician in New York isn't doing that on-field screening, which is the more important piece to it, that modified SCAT that we do.
So you're in New York, you're not on site?
No, we're not on site. We're based out of New York. Trust me, my wife would hate me if I flew to every game. She already hates me now, but.
Brandon, I'd love to hear your take on this, especially, being quick and being accurate when it comes to being the news. Please.
Yes, so speed is very important. Our show starts at 7 a.m. and, right when our show starts, immediately clipping, going to the rundown, looking for language. And speed's important because if we have a news-making interview or we're reporting new information that nobody else has, our show is known for its hard news format compared to our competitors. They cover a lot more entertainment, along with news, but our show is known for its 2 hours of just full news. So we have, different perspective at the table. We have a different voice, and sometimes someone will say something that's news-making, something someone else didn't know. So we have a lot of journalists who also watch our show, also competing networks, but they'll sometimes tweet or try to scoop us off of our own story. So it's important for me to get it out from our brand right away. I need to make sure the quote is right. Is it accurate? Is my spelling okay? Do I have the right Twitter handle? So all these things are going into my mind as I'm preparing the tweet. I probably read the tweet and fact check it 6 times before it goes out there just to make sure. Because the last thing you want to do is have someone email you, "Oh, this is wrong," or have to take down a tweet or have a typo because Twitter won't give us an edit button yet. That's another conversation. But yeah, I mean, it's very important. There's you have to keep in mind when you're cutting a video, it's not going to be instant. It does take a minute or two. And we have to explain that to the higher up sometimes, and they're like, "Hey, why is this clip out?" And it's like, "I'm working on it. It'll be out shortly," because that 1 minute does make a difference. So it's if we want it out, I would say instantly we can do a photo because photos, it's less to process than a video clip. But yeah, speed's very important because we want to be right. We want to be accurate. We got to protect the brand. It's CBS. They're known for being the prestigious brand. And I have a question.
What's the approval workflow? You select the clip.
So.
It's your call.
Well, if it's on the broadcast, it's good to go on social. I mean, there are certain clips. I chat on Slack. Anybody here use Slack? Raise your hand. Slack. If you love Slack, keep your hand up. Yeah. All right. So I'm slacking away in the morning. Our web editor is saying, "Hey, is this clip cleared?" Sports footage we never touch. Music we don't touch. Or if it's a third-party footage that we didn't necessarily authorize for web. Sometimes they just clear stuff for broadcast, which try not to, but there's instances where it's only for broadcast. Then I can't use that clip. So I'll do maybe a screenshot with a quote or not use the full video. But as far as language, I try to stick to what's in the show to keep it consistent because that stuff has been processed and has been seen by different barriers in the organization, fact check, executive producer, senior producers, the writers. So I try to stick to that stuff. If it's something light, there's times where I do write my own language. If I'm not sure, I have a team, our web team, and I'll say, "Hey, how does this sound?" And just have an extra eye look at it if I'm not sure.
But you have the final editorial control of what goes, or does it go to a senior producer?
Yeah, I have the final. Yeah, so I press tweet, and what's out there, it's my butt.
One thing I love is about maybe a month ago, I was watching CBS This Morning, and I see someone in the background, literally sitting behind Gail or something. Using SnapStream, and I go, "Hey man," I just grabbed a screenshot using SnapStream and said, "Hey," hey guy using SnapStream, I see you over there," or something like that. And Brandon immediately responded, "Hey, that's me." So if you're watching in the morning, you can literally, and that's another, yeah, you can see his back of his head and using and clipping. But my question for you is it extra stressful sitting 10 feet from the anchors and doing your work? I guess you got to be quieter, but.
I wouldn't say stressful. I would say more adrenaline.
Sure.
You know, you're in the middle of everything. I think it's more exciting. I have a headset, so if you watch, I usually have a headset, and then I have a headset in my ear. I have SnapStream playing back, and then I have in the other ear what's live, and I also have our executive producer. So I can hear he's in the control room. He's talking live. So if he says something or he didn't like something, or if there was a mistake, because mistakes happen, it's live TV. If the reporter says something they weren't supposed to, or they're gonna edit it for the West Coast, I need to be listening to what he's saying, so I know if that's on social, I either need to take it down or not put it out there. So I'm kind of listening to three things at once. And when I was first training for the job, I was like, oh my God, this is not gonna work out. How can I listen to three different things at the same time? But you kind of just get used to it. You get into a workflow, you get into a system, and then, yeah, I mean, speed's important, but I've always been told, like, yes, if it's not like, you know, a huge news-making moment, just make sure you're right and get it out there. But like just like when I train people below me now, like some of our interns or our broadcast associates, because I want everyone to learn how to live tweet. You know, I tell them, like, yes, it's important to get it out quickly, but let's just make sure we're right and accurate, no typos, and it looks clean before we rush to get something there.
Sure. When you're choosing your video strategy, or when you're coming up with video strategy, this is for all you who work in social. Are you listening to what people are asking you for? Are you trying to set the agenda? I hate to use the word agenda, but how do you figure out your video strategy? Suchit, excuse me. You know, how are you listening to the people who are using the software or the app and seeing what they want?
Yeah, so I mean, we're a very product-first kind of organization, and we iterate on our product pretty much daily. And you know, I think the challenge that I think all of us probably face is we're an independent application, so we have our own kind of standalone app. We don't push a lot of our content. We really don't push any content out to you know, that we create onto Facebook or Instagram or some of these others. Our users will post their creations on those applications, and then we'll see a lot of users coming back kind of through these funnels. But I think one of the things that we obviously focus on and that I'm, you know, spend most of my time on is figuring out in the next, you know, 3 to 5 years, what does video look like, and what's the modality that people are going to start consuming it on. And really, obviously, just in our own internal data that we've seen, you know, from 2016 to 2017, you know, for perspective on our app, we ended 2016 with about 800 million views inside our app, and then we ended 2017 with like almost, you know, 2.7 billion. Jeez. And it's largely just due to the fact that, like, that wasn't due to any shift in strategy that we necessarily did. Although we did provide more video content, it was consumers' behavior and wanting to watch more and more content on their phones. And I think that's largely when you look at user-generated content, the way you consume with Instagram stories or Snapchat stories, they're going through that at a much higher frequency every single day for a shorter period of time, but constantly checking back in versus sitting down and being like, I'm gonna watch, let's say, 15 minutes at one time. And I think the question is, how do you change programming accordingly? And that's where we're spending a lot of our time thinking about how do you take a lot of this content, slice it into even thinner slices than we even think about, like going from episode to clip. How do you even go from clip to even shorter than that? And then get it into a really bite-sized format that they can consume. And that's the way we think about from a strategy perspective where we're headed. I can't say that we've, by any measure, figured it out. I think we would be the gazillionaires that someone was talking about earlier if we did. Anybody else?
Just speaking of like general social video strategy, because YouTube and all those are different platforms for different revenue. Every platform is different. Every brand is different. How I do it with my team is I separate into brand leads, and I make these people have ownership and pride in that brand, and they're going to own that voice and make sure it's aligned with the social media manager and everything that they're needing. And I break it into quarters so we can pivot quickly. My strategy, I think you have to pivot, especially with social. Like, you have to see what works and then change it up. There's no like one rule book. And as you're seeing companies evolve and turn more into this digital media, you have to explain that to them, right? It's not just an image with text on it. It's like, okay, so have you heard of motion graphics, right? Okay, so like, are we hiring people with motion graphic skills? And especially with IG stories now and with Snapchat, that movement is important, and you're learning how to tell visual stories. And you know, Candace, your question earlier about how you get people to understand the importance of video, I think you have to speak their language and be like, this is just an extension of your own storytelling. I want to tell the story that you already have. I want to tell the editorial that you already have. This can help build upon it. a lot of people, in my experience, that don't understand video or don't want video are people that probably don't have experience making it. So you kind of have to put a hand across there and to show them that this really isn't scary. I'm going to teach you what a cinematograph is. It's not going to change anything editorially. It's just.
Do you want to tell everybody what a cinematograph is?
Sure. It's when you have a beautiful image and you have a piece of movement in there. Ideally, you can shoot it in advance that way. So, like for example, there could be a still here and just your pin moving. So it can be interesting, especially when you're looking at brands like Architectural Digest or Condé Nast Traveler. Like they can be like really gorgeous. But you know, with Condé Nast, of course, there's photography rights, and there's a lot of pieces. Anytime you think there's an easy layup, it's like hits you back in the head. So you have to make sure you have buy-in for sure.
Great. Did you have something to add here, Brandon?
Sure. So I mean, I think it depends on the platform and the algorithm behind it and how you can monetize. We're a broadcast network, so you know we are TV first. We also have our streaming network, CBSN, which is a 24/7 news streaming service. If you go to cbsnews.com, it's always playing like on the bottom. But it's like, you know, Facebook, it's like every few months you have to change up your strategy because when the algorithm changes, you have to change the way you, you know, put your post out. You know, we saw, I would say a year ago, an increase in the square videos, if you notice why. Like now we're seeing a shift in like some news organizations testing out vertical video because everyone's like using iPhones and their smartphones. So I mean, I think it just depends on your company's mission, how they want to make money. You know, we don't put everything out on social because we need to make money, you know, off our website and our stream. And, you know, we do want people to go to and watch us on TV, but we also want to give away enough for people to know what we are and can check us out.
First bit's free, the rest is going to cost you? Type of thing? Nothing. Brandon hit on a good point. Like, how many of you guys are pushed to monetize? I mean, you're the president, Suchit. So I mean, is the push to figure out a way to monetize the video, is that strong at these organizations, or is it seen as ancillary to what you're doing, or I'm just.
Yeah, look, we have to.
Of course, yeah.
And I think the challenge probably more than anything else is, especially in mobile video, how do you figure out a way to make sure that the CPMs don't completely go down to almost zero? And the increase in inventory that we're seeing in mobile video is great. The challenge is how do you get really good ad experiences that fundamentally actually impact users, you know, that they can actually remember. And so the biggest issue that we're facing also is, it's great, we're seeing a lot of viewership, but we're also seeing a lot of users just doing this and tapping through a ton of videos very fast. And they're tapping through the ads as fast as they tap through the videos themselves, right? So I don't think, and Facebook's struggling with this, Snap's struggling with this, I think all of us who's a platform are struggling with how do you find the right type of model and ad format that ultimately works. And I think you're gonna see some changes coming from all the platforms to make it so that people pause and spend a little bit more time on there. But I think ultimately what we're doing is also working very closely with content owners and taking their content, making it really bite-sized, giving them the ability to approve, reject, all of this stuff, but ultimately doing that in service so that they can gain more digital inventory to be able to sell against, right? So if you have SNL that goes live and you're seeing the full episode, you bring that to the mobile screen where people are seeing it and consuming it kind of like an Instagram story model, but then able to monetize that as effectively as they could be because of the greater inventory that they have access to. Again, it's, I think, something that we're all trying to focus on, but I don't think anyone has the perfect answer yet.
Sure. Great. Well, the last question I have, and then we'll open it up for questions here, is what are you guys most excited about? What's on the horizon video-wise? What is in the next social media that none of us know about? You know, where is video heading as you see it? Joe?
For us, it's just all about speed. Trying to figure out, is there a way that we can take, as these guys have said, take it out of the encoding and get it to the hands faster. Is that we put a snap box in each of our venues and then put a local guy in there who runs that cut and is on the sidelines and just hands it straight to the doctor, vice me cutting it and sending it. I mean, it's for us, the way forward is just speed, is sheer speed.
Suchit?
Yeah, ours is, I think, really about how do users interact with content. So it's not about if your TV was designed today, where it's very much of a lean back experience. I think the future is very much of a lean forward and interactive experience where they can take the content and do interesting things with it. whether that be in our case putting their face and putting the things on top of that, but then actually doing more with it. And I think we're going to continue to see that envelope kind of push forward.
I'm excited about visual storytelling and how it keeps evolving in the marketplace, to be honest. I think there's a million different ways to tell a story. Content is king, and people won't stop reading, in my opinion. They just won't. There's a reason why The New Yorker is The New Yorker. And so if you keep great content as first and visual storytelling as helping to build that rather than be against it, then I think we'll be in a good place.
I'm not excited for Facebook's huge algorithm change, getting rid of news. I think 2018 is going to be an interesting year. You're starting to see all these reports, which we all knew that these tech companies are making these apps. It's contributing to addiction and young people being addicted to their phones. So I think they're going to get more pressure, and it's interesting to see which way they go with at least journalism. We have Facebook Watch now. Be interested to see where that goes. There's talk of them adding ads to those videos soon because if companies want to monetize off their content. I'm interested in what Netflix and Hulu and these apps and these subscription services that you pay for. Year to year they just keep growing, and it's something people don't mind paying for. I got an email, my Netflix price is going up. It's like, okay, it's fine. I love it. It's great. Live TV streaming. You're seeing them being integrated now. Hulu has the Hulu. Whatever, live TV with Hulu, DirecTV, they have an app that you just stream. So it's a very interesting time for this industry with video. I think you're going to see more ads on videos. Twitter already has the pre-roll on top of your videos, which I think is great because it's easier to sell to your bosses like, hey, we can put more content out online if we're making XYZ.
Which you can now use with SnapStream, for the record. Just saying.
Snapchat, I think they're declining a bit, but if they just, the other day, they were all about shooting only on your phone, and then if you're uploading your camera roll, you'd have that ugly white border around, and SnapStream came to our office, I'd say like 2 months ago, to show us the redesign of their app, which I wasn't impressed. It was like the same thing, but we told them, we're like, can you get rid of this white border? Like, how, as a brand, are we supposed to put content out? Like, we don't have a whole team that's going to be on the field or doing on-the-scene things. If we get lots of video from all over the world, it's a global organization, but if we can upload, through the app without, having that huge white border, I think that would, because we don't really focus on SnapStream, just on SnapStream, on Snapchat.
Yeah, big difference.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah.
So now a few days ago they did a huge update where they don't have that white border. So I think they're starting to see the decline in numbers, and it's been like, okay, maybe we should start listening to some brands. So I love Instagram stories, addicted to it. Follow at CBS This Morning, shameless plug. So we do a lot of fun stories there, and maybe we'll start getting back into Snapchat heavily again now that we're able to without uploading from camera roll. So we'll see. It's hard to tell. It's like you asked me last year, where's the industry going to go? Like, who knows? Mark Zuckerberg can wake up tomorrow and change everything else again, and we'll have to adapt because it's Facebook.
Yeah. Who's got questions? Anybody have questions for our panelists? Please.
I'll stand up.
We got a microphone coming around, I believe. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Erin. I'm from Newman University. I'll be graduating in May. So how important, if it is at all, to hire someone that already knows SnapStream or has already worked with it?
I think if I was interviewing 4 different people and you said, oh, I know to use SnapStream, I know to live tweet, you're hired. Because now I don't have to spend a couple of weeks training you. Like, that's a great asset.
It's a really good opportunity to give them your card and contact information, just for the record. Yeah. Anybody else? Sorry.
No, SnapStream, I think the interface is pretty great, so I could teach you how to do SnapStream, but I want to know if you have design skills and if you have a visual eye, because that's going to help with my translation a lot.
I guess it depends on what you're applying for and what it is for, Like, it's more creative.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, for our standpoint, when we were bringing in athletic trainers to do that spotter program, that was one of the questions we asked. Do you even know what SnapStream is? And if they gave us that Blake dumbfounded look, it was like, all right, please scoot to the side because I don't have time. When you've got 9 games going on at the same time, you don't have time to troubleshoot this thing. They need to know how to do it and get it pushed to them as fast as possible. So it was actually, for us, it was actually one of the requirements that they had to at least have heard of the system so that we could push it forward.
Was it difficult to find people that had the experience?
For athletic trainers, it was very, very difficult. They don't live in the IT world. They had can we send it through Facebook? No, you can't send it through Facebook. But we did bring them in. We actually did run into a part where we didn't have them and had to bring in a few extra. And we had to put them through some training on the system and do test runs with them prior to them going. So they were actually starting we started them in week 9 of the season. So it took 9 weeks of us having them come in and work side by side with guys who had actually used it. That way we get the speed and the quickness down.
Sure. Any other questions? Please.
This is more for Dubsmash. So you're, clipping, stuff right, fresh, whatever.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with the intellectual property part of that?
So what we do is we actually enable all of these quotes get uploaded into kind of a back-end system that we actually work with the content owner. They have the ability to approve, reject, they can do whatever they want with it, they can take things down. We've gotten pretty good about, we never cut anything with music as an example, which is a big challenge. And then everything we're cutting is we're actually doing less than 10 seconds. A lot of cases, there's
10-second rule.
This is 10-second fair use rule
Fair use.
to a certain degree, right? So, yeah.
0.5.
Yeah, exactly.
Saw another question? Please.
I had a question regarding Dubsmash Condé Nast. You guys sort of, and it involves you bringing up the amount of garbage that tends to come out, for clicks and stuff like that, and you bringing up the idea that people are just cycling through and not spending any time. Are you guys seeing a correlation on that? I believe your company came out with the idea that let's give everyone the ability to do whatever they want, and I feel like we're now seeing a reversal of that because too many people are doing what they want, and what they want is not good. And I wonder how that's going to run into the ability to monetize, because no one hangs out long enough because they see it and they assume see you later. So I wonder if you have any thoughts on that for the both of you guys.
Yeah, so my perspective on this is very much around curation and a curated experience versus necessarily keeping an open platform. And I think the challenge that you see Facebook and many of these companies, which is different, like Snap actually has a different philosophy on this versus Instagram and Facebook and even Google at that pace, which is very machine learning driven algorithmic decision making versus any level of human curation that's involved. And I think we've sampled both. I personally still believe there is a world where human curation is incredibly important. And I actually believe that especially when you're dealing with user-generated content and you're seeing the challenges with YouTube, with brand safety, you're seeing challenges with Facebook, I think there needs to be that. And actually Snap is does a lot of human curation. So I sort of took, we built a team of almost 30 to 35 people around the world who are doing human curation around content that gets submitted. They're looking at thousands of videos every single day, every hour basically, and also selecting really good content that people actually want to watch. I can tell you, we have a lot of videos that it's not worth watching, and people are just creating for themselves. And I think that that's where you need to give that level of dedication to your brand advertiser to then give them a good enough experience for them to actually even want to put an advertisement next to your content. And I think that that's a layer where, as much as we all are trying to go for viewability and visibility, it's a challenge because over time that starts to erode. And so I think you need to couple great experiences together. And that's honestly where TV got it really right, is TV did, the better the programming, the better the ad rates. And I think in mobile, it's not really like that right now. And so we've got to kind of have a little bit of an adjustment for it.
I think with Condé Nast, probably about 2 years ago, you saw that we had a lot of likes on Facebook, for example, but they were actually vanity likes. It's really cool to like GQ, but then you post a link and you're getting 15 likes and you're like, something's not right here. And so then we realized we needed to engage the audience. And so we started getting to the speed of engagement, and which would then lead to scale and ideally, theoretically, come back to traffic. But now we're slowing down here and really rethinking our audience because we're getting the engagement, we're getting the scale, but this person they're not the GQ reader. And so we can't just, chase the social tail if it doesn't match our editorial content. So we have to make sure that it matches every single time. And you'll see this with Allure. If they're posting something that's not makeup or self-care related, why did you post it? Because you want people to tag their friend? it's not worth it. So take that down, and I'd rather you not have that, and we have something that actually builds a true, authentic audience that will keep coming back and then go to the site and read, and they come to, know what to expect from us. I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions? I want to thank our panelists very much. It was great, very interesting discussion. We're gonna take about a 10-minute break. Please get a drink, have some coffee, use the restroom if there's any keys left, and we'll get going again in about 10 minutes. Thanks again, guys.